Hello, welcome to Cinema Savvy. I'm Chris, joined today with Tayte, and we're going to be doing something that we did last year. We're going to be talking about all 5 of the Best Animated Feature nominees this year for the 93rd Academy Awards. Today is the day, and this is the final video that we'll be putting out, thankfully. Hopefully we can get some sleep in between before we do the Oscars tonight. But this will be a good one, I think.
So we've talked about the best film categories on the channel over the last few weeks. We've gone through every single one of the best film nominees going forwards, but we also do like to do this thing where we go through the animated films as well. We're big animated film fans here. We did it last year, going through all 5 films that are nominated. Now I've now got to try and remember off the top of my head. So I Lost My Body, Klaus, Toy Story 4. Oh. What else was there? There was
The Missing Link.
The Missing Link, and
we're forgetting an obvious one. Yeah,
but these one more.
But these are this year's anyway, as you can see from the graphics. So Tate, if you want to read those out with a nice little picture graphic we've got there.
Yeah, sure. So going from left to right, we've got Wolfwalkers, we've got Soul, we've got Shaun the Sheep, Farmageddon, we've got Over the Moon, and Onward. So quite a varied selection this year. Maybe not as much kind of different animated styles. There's 3 or 4 films, or 3 films there which are somewhat similar in their animation style, and then you've got 2 slight outliers in the forms of Shaun the Sheep and Wolfwalkers, which is very different from last year where it was all very varied. It all took on different forms, but I'm looking forward to kind of getting into and talking about these nominees because we have a real mixed bunch this year. So it'd be very interesting to go to. But first, I'm going to hand you over to Chris with the socials.
Absolutely. So, as I mentioned, today is the day of the Oscars, or technically tomorrow, the early hours of the morning for UK viewers, but it'll be tonight for us. So that's going to be going live at Monday, well, tomorrow morning, 12:50 a.m. That will be me, George, and Tate on that one. We do it every year. It's the 6th annual Oscars live stream that we do. I do want to stress, because we always get one person, we'll probably start the intro on tonight's live stream with this. We're not actually streaming the Oscars. It's just going to be us giving our opinions, seeing the winners as they come out. It's always good fun. We've got about 3 hours to kill on there. We're going to be talking movies. We'll be talking Oscar films, all of the Best Picture nominees, and everything in between. So that's always a good place to be. And also, the Oscar predictions giveaway. It's in the description down below. You still have time. Please get it sent in to us. First and second choice for each of the categories for your chance to win a £15 Rakuten voucher. And of course, if you want to follow us so you can see exact times for later on today, follow us on Facebook at Cinema Savvy, Twitter at cinema_savvy. We're on Letterboxd at letterboxd.com/cinemasavvy, where George has very nicely created a little list of all the films that we've reviewed for the 93rd Academy Awards, and also our Public link in the description below, where you can pick up some t-shirts, some new designs possibly coming your way in the next couple of days. Right, Tate, shall we dive into this thing? We have 5 movies to get through. What are we kicking off with today?
We're going to be kicking off with Onward, which is the Disney kind of animated film, fantasy, decent voice cast. That's really all I can say about this film.
Really?
Forgettable. This film, okay, I'm going to come out the gate swinging here. This film is forgettable. This is going to be one of those Disney films where people are listing off films that have come out recently from Disney, and you kind of get stuck on that one. You're like, it tried something new and different going into the fantasy genre, which I like, but it doesn't hit the same as like other Pixar films, does it?
Yeah,
it really doesn't.
Yeah, exactly. This is actually a fun story about this one. So all 3 of us, me, you, and George, were all under the impression that we already had a review for Onward, and I don't quite know why we don't have one on the channel. Usually we stay pretty abreast with all like the new films that come out, and obviously it was a Pixar film, so it was a big one. I remember me and George planning it, saying like, are you good for a review tomorrow? We were like, yep, let's do one. And then for whatever reason, it never materialized. I can see thumbnails in my head. I can see social media posts for it. And it never went ahead. So this is as good as you're going to get for an Onward review, I'm afraid, on the channel.
For me, it's in the same ballpark as Good Dinosaur and as Cars 2. It's one of those films, really. It's so forgettable. And I don't know what about it is forgettable, because I enjoy adventure stories. I love the fantasy genre. And I liked the kind of concept of it. I remember watching the trailers and going, oh, so it's like Monday fairy tales kind of mixed in with like reality. I like that. And it's a quest. It had a good voice cast. It had Tom Holland, Chris Pratt. I was expecting big things of it. It just didn't hit in any way, shape or form. Like, I don't know if it was a thing where I know a lot of people online were saying it hits different if you've got a brother.
Yeah.
And you have that kind of maybe lost connection with a father or something like that. But for me, I don't have either of those things. So for me, it was just kind of, it tried kind of forcing a story onto me that just didn't work, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, and I mean, looking at the nominees this year, I mean, we have some fantastic ones on there that we're going to be talking about later. Wolfwalkers and Soul, chief among them, probably are easily the best two out of the selection this year. But Onward came out at that really awkward time in that it was the last film that I went to the cinema to see before we went into the first lockdown last year. It was literally the day before. So I'm very glad that I got to the cinema that day when I did. Otherwise, it would have been even longer a wait before I got to go back to the cinema. So I do think that COVID-19 and lockdowns and everything definitely did hurt this movie. It was a box office bomb. It would have been interesting to see how much money this film would have made had cinemas have just stayed open as normal. I think that would have been really interesting. But I know that they moved it to Disney Plus a few weeks after, to account for the time that it was locked down.
I do want to throw a quick hat in the ring here of I'm wondering whether one of the reasons, other than the obvious lockdown, was that it wasn't successful, was that the animation was a bit lazy for Pixar.
Yeah, they tried to spin it with like this new style. It felt overly, I don't say overly cartoony because I know it's a kids movie.
Overly
you know what
cartoony,
I mean, though?
but still very human for characters that aren't meant to be human.
A lot of the characters' designs felt very overly simplistic. I'm looking at the director as well. So Dan Scanlon, who directed Monsters University, which isn't one of my favorite Pixar films as well. As a film overall, though, Onward, I have a kind of a problem with the concept, really. I like the themes in it. I like the brotherly dynamic. I like the lost father and these two brothers who have kind of been, pulled apart. They're very different, completely opposites, really. But through this adventure and this quest that they go on, they join together and reconnect with their father. So I like the themes of the story and, get a little bit misty towards the end. I thought it was a charming film, but it feels more like... I mean, this is a complete opposite when we get to Soul, because I would say Soul is made more for adults than it is for children. I'd say it's the opposite thing where I don't think there's much that children could grasp and connect with Soul, whereas Onward felt very much a kid's movie through and through. I actually would have loved to have seen Onward had it have been, like the prologue at the beginning of the film. We are probably going to go into a few spoilers here in these films, we should say. Yeah. It starts off in that fantasy realm, like proper fantasy. And I thought, could you imagine an animated film done in this realm? And then not 2 minutes later, it's modernized, it's urban, it's kind of like Zootopia. And, it mirrors more our society now with these fantasy characters. And I thought, oh, no, I would have loved to have seen it if they'd have kept it in that archaic Tolkien-ish fantasy realm and still tell the same story, perhaps.
Is it really bad that I can't even remember the villain of this film? Like, I know that at the end, there's like a giant...
There's a giant dinosaur.
Dragon,
that's
but it's
it.
made from like concrete and stuff. I can't even remember how it was created. What they did, maybe they did a spell wrong or something like that.
I think what this film was as well is like we knew that year we were getting two Pixar films. We were getting Onward and we were getting Soul. And even immediately out of the gates, even going into Onward, it felt like everyone was looking ahead.
Was this the B project? This was the B project, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So as film overall, it's actually, I'm trying to remember back to the film. I didn't rewatch it before the Academy Awards, I will say. So the last time I watched Onward was last year when it came out. I thought it was fine, but it hasn't particularly stayed with me. And even in terms of animation, it didn't really, chart any new territories for me or show me something that I haven't seen before in the animation genre, which is what we're going to be ranking these films on as well. We're going to be talking about how they go over as a film, but also, that's a highly coveted award, the best picture winner, best animated feature winner, sorry.
Is it okay? It's highly coveted, but it is also highly controversial with various different Oscar voters saying, we just get our kids to watch the films and they just tell us which one to vote for. And some people just skipping it entirely and just going, that one I've heard of, or that one is the Disney or Pixar film, or that one is the one that everyone is saying should win, so I'm going to vote for that one. Like, people don't actually put the time in for this category, which is a shame, because if they put the time in, they would vote for the correct winner this year. But we don't know whether that's going to happen or not, because there is a definitive best film out of these.
Yeah.
one that kind of stuck with both of us, which we discussed beforehand. But
this
films
tends
like
to how it always goes, isn't it? There's always the one that we really want to see win, but we probably know deep down it won't. And then there's the more sort of like odds-on bookies' favorite that always tends to take it.
It doesn't help that every single year, whenever they do this, there's only really 2 or 3 contenders that you could say, oh yeah, that could win it. Some years there's 2, like this year, where there's 2 clear outright favorites. But it doesn't help that they always throw in I'm going to say the word lesser films that really don't deserve to be there. Films like Boss Baby from a few years ago, which now people will say, oh yeah, Academy Award nominated Boss Baby. It's like, Jesus.
Now, do we think this year, like, because I think we spoke about this when the nominees were first listed, we were like, it's not a very strong year this year for animation. I think that's down to obvious reasons with things that have been going on in the world and films and everything. The fact, I guess, Tate, if you want to take us on to our next movie, this was actually a 2019 film for us in the UK. I think it got a US and international release in 2020, so that's why it's been counted. But I was surprised to see this next film on the list because I thought this was like been and gone past the year, past the deadline, but apparently not.
So this film actually came out 14th of February, 2020.
God.
So did that come out before the Oscars last year?
Yes. It did then. Yeah. I mean,
we got it in America. We got it in 2019.
Yeah, I'm just checking. This is October of 2019. We got it. So it's been a while.
The full title of this film: A Shaun the Sheep Movie, Farmageddon. Not Shaun the Sheep, Farmageddon. A Shaun the Sheep Movie, Farmageddon, which means we're going to get sequels, obviously. I'll go ahead and say this immediately. I love Aardman. Absolutely adore Aardman. Wallace and Gromit, even Shaun the Sheep. Like that, the stuff they're doing with their animation is fantastic, especially with Shaun the Sheep. The ability to tell a story without using dialogue, without using things, it becomes international. It's something that anyone can understand and enjoy. This is a film for, I'd say, a very young demographic. And as much as I did have fun with this film, it does fall into some mistakes that you do have when you aim at a certain very young demographic where it's fun for the sake of what it is, but it's not going to be like anything. There's no debate in the film. It's very inoffensive. There's going to be nothing that you can really kind of have deep discussions about or anything like that. And there's nothing that gives it kind of that edge in this film. There are some cute things in this film. I always love the dog in the Shaun the Sheep things. I think he's probably the best character in this film, actually. But it's a fun little concept. Shaun the Sheep meets an alien and kind of has to save Earth, but also save the alien and get the alien home. It's just Aardman. You can't go wrong with Aardman. And it did put a smile on my face, but it's I wouldn't rank it very highly.
It's basically Aardman remaking E.T., isn't it? That's basically the plot of this film. I love Aardman as well. Now, don't get me wrong. I knew kind of what this film was going to be going into it. I have seen the first Shaun the Sheep movie. I have watched certain episodes of the TV show as well. So I know the demographic it's aiming for. I know how the TV show goes, and even the films, the first movie especially, it stays very true to the TV show. You know, the fact that it's now called Shaun the Sheep the movie, it just feels like a longer version, probably with more budget than an actual episode. And that's exactly what you get in here. So I enjoyed it. I had fun with it. I'm never going to watch this film again. It's like a solid 80 minutes. So it breezes by pretty quickly.
And there are some visual gags for parents if you pick up on them.
Yeah, I was going to say. and they're like, the references and stuff are always what I gravitate towards with these things, and that's part of the fun for me as an adult, is picking out those sci-fi references. You've got stuff to E.T., Close Encounters of the Third Kind, The X-Files, and many more, and there's a lot of visual gags, or like you'll see like a headline on a newspaper, or there's a pun or something related to it, and that's going to be stuff that the adults gravitate towards, I think. So there is something in there for everyone, but this very much feels like a Saturday morning, we need to take the kids to the cinema. Shaun the Sheep's on. That will keep them quiet for just over an hour. It feels more in that kind of vein. In terms of Aardman animation, there are better Aardman feature films out there. Chicken Run, Wallace and Gromit, Were Rabbit. Exactly. Yeah. So
the one that actually won Best Animated Feature.
Oh, did it? Yeah. Well, I mean, Quite rightly so. I mean, and even now, like, it is so charming to see stop motion animation. I think, Aardman and Leica are probably the only two studios off the top of my head that I can think of that still do that animation. But with Aardman, it feels so tangible. Like, you can see the thumbprints in the eyebrows and stuff, and you can really get that sense of someone made these characters with their hands and is animating these frame by frame. So it's charming in that regard. But in terms of a film, it's inoffensive, it's fine. But to be nominated for best animated feature at the Academy Awards might be a little bit of a stretch. But if they were it felt like they were trying to, right, we need a stop motion animation film. Which one? That one. Fine, it's Shaun the Sheep. Just get it in there. It feels like it was added to make up numbers, essentially, for the nominees.
I think they needed a stop motion one in there. Leica's kind of been churning out brilliant film after brilliant film, maybe not with The Missing Link from last year, but they've been putting out fantastic films back to back to back to back, and having that kind of stop motion animation in there, it does show the variety of the category. Otherwise, you do have films that do look very kind of not similar, but the similar style of animation over and over again. And having that kind of variety, I think this is the variety pick. This was thrown in there just because we need a stop motion film. This was the only one that came out. Does it qualify? Who cares? I
have been prompted by someone that they are hurt that we didn't mention Wes Anderson's animations when talking about stop motion. I guess, you've got Fantastic Mr. Fox, Isle of Dogs.
Absolutely. I mean, Fantastic Mr. Fox is one of my favorite animated films. I know you guys don't like Wes Anderson, but I'm a massive Wes Anderson fan. I'm a massive Wes Anderson fan. Didn't like Isle of Dogs as much, but I do think Fantastic Mr. Fox is up there with some of the best, and that possibly could have won that year, but that was a strong year for animation. If I remember, that had Coraline. That was 2009, so it would have been 2010. Was that the year where Toy Story 3 was there as well? It was a strong year, strong year for the Oscars. So don't blame it for not winning that. But as far as Shaun the Sheep Farmageddon's concerned, it's a film. It was on. I actually watched the German version, and yes, they do translate the newspapers.
So that's all right. So you caught everything then. It's good that there's no dialogue, right? It's just grunts and exclamations, pretty much. Did you stay for after the credits, by the way?
I stayed for the credits. I don't know if I stayed for after the credits.
My favorite joke is the post-credit scene. I guess I'm going to spoil it if you haven't seen Armageddon. Those sort of like hazmat suit wearing Men in Black agents. One of those enters and there's a keyboard in center frame with a spotlight. Takes the helmet off, and it's Professor Brian Cox, who then plays Things Can Only Get Better on the keyboard, because obviously he was a keyboardist in a band, wasn't he, before he was amazing. I was like, that's the best joke in the movie, and they saved it for the post-credit scene, so that got a good laugh out of me.
Fantastic. I'm legit going to go and watch that as soon as this video is over.
It's incredible. I believe we're moving on to our second and final Pixar film of the nominees now.
So we've got 3 more nominees left to go through. And the first one of these is, should we say the big one? It's the one that everyone thinks is going to win.
The odds-on favorite,
It's the odds-on favorite. It's Soul. And I mean, I have a very interesting relationship with Soul, because I'm going to say this immediately. It's a fantastic film. It really is. There were moments in the film where I thought it was kind of going a bit off-key. I'll throw in as many musical puns as I can. But this film overall, it did have a very good message. It was very adult, had moments where it was like, wow, this is contemplating existence. Jesus. Like, I didn't expect the film to go into those kind of directions. But yeah, like I said, some moments, like when the cat comes in, they have the body swap moment. That kind of caught me off guard and thought, oh no, it's going to be one of those films. But they managed to recover it. That sequence was quite good. But then the ending, I have problems with the ending.
Yeah.
I think me and Chris sent about 20 voice notes to each other after the film was over, trying to fix the ending of this film.
Was it Christmas Day, Boxing Day? When was this released on
It would have been Christmas Day.
Yeah.
And our immediate first thoughts were, no, the ending isn't good. It basically tries to come up with a happy ending. It's a very American ending, where everything's resolved. The main character has decided, you know what, I've lived my life. I've been an inspiration. I'm happy going out on this high. And he basically goes and gives himself to the ether, basically taking himself to the unknown. He's happy to pass over now, knowing that he's made a difference. But the film goes, hold up, wait a minute, we're actually going to give you a second chance on Earth, which to me completely ruins all of kind of, I know they say, oh, he's going to live a better life, he's going to do things different this time and stuff like that. But I think it takes away from a beautiful ending of acceptance of kind of, you've done your bit, you can now move on. And instead it goes, you've done your bit, congratulations, you've won an award of trying again. I wasn't a fan of it personally, and it did take away a little bit of that shine off the film. Not to say that it's a bad film, but for me at least, it just tainted it slightly.
Yeah, it didn't hit as hard as I expected it would, or I think that it should. And I think it had all the ingredients there, and I think all the elements were there to have a truly just gut-wrenching ending. And I was prepared for it. I was ready for it. It's the bit where he's, he pushes her down the... Yeah.
Just like,
and
he is there.
And everything's there, and then is it Richard Iowadi? Is that his name? Shows up randomly in the final 10 seconds and goes, "Oh, we found you an Earth pass so that you can go back. All is forgiven." And it's just that's the end of the movie. I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, that just really let the drag shoot out in this movie." So this film was directed by Pete Docter, and he's actually directed, probably argue, some of the best Pixar films.
The best Pixar films.
Monsters Inc., Up, Inside Out. So I'd actually say Inside Out is probably the Pixar film that Soul most closely resembles, especially, I'm just going to bring up the graphic again. The two sort of like Soul characters themselves are very much like the, with Inside Out, it was the emotions in the head, whereas this, it's like the souls in the afterlife or purgatory or the great beyond, whatever you want to call it. I think the strengths of this film was in its first act. I love the stuff with Jamie Foxx's character where it was more, I don't want to say live action based, but where the animation style is done in that sort of like live action drama kind of thing of this teacher who, wishes he could be this great musician. I loved all that stuff. The animation itself is absolutely flawless. Some of Pixar's best, I think, in terms of how it captures its human characters. But then the whole second act, it just sort of devolves into this slapstick where the soul gets put into the cat, and there's a lot of slapstick and awkward humor, and that seemed like the chunk of the film that was most geared towards children, where the children can laugh at the funny cat falling around with the human voice.
It didn't know if it wanted to be a fully, we're going to focus on the adults this time, it's going to be a film where adults are like blah, 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 or whether it was like, oh, but we got to keep the kids entertained because it's an animated film, and animated films are for kids. And I think that's the kind of misconception that Pixar sometimes goes into. As much as I love Up, you do have the child in Up who does have the childish jokes, and you do have the dog. And as much as I love the dog and stuff like that in the film, it takes away from the story that you had in the first place. And it's a Pixar misconception that they keep on doing this. They keep on adding in humor where humor isn't necessarily needed, or the humor is the wrong style of humor. You have a very mature first act. Even at the end, it's quite a mature kind of finale as well. But the middle bit, it is geared towards children, and it does kind of change its tone very heavily. There are still those moments where it breaks through kind of into quite a philosophical debate and stuff like that. I think the moment where he kind of gets lost in the music and stuff like that he's playing on the piano towards the start of the final act, fantastic, amazing moment. But certain things in this film just don't work. One of them is Graham Norton. Graham Norton's fantastic. Like his show on British television where he gets the guests on, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And him doing the Eurovision Song Contest always pulls in the laughs. But he feels so out of place in this film. Because you can tell immediately that it's him.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing. And I was going to mention this with Onward as well. Chris Pratt, it's that celebrity voice gimmick, isn't it? Like I cease to see the character.
Yeah.
I just hear the celebrity voice.
Whereas in this film, Jamie Foxx, it kind of blended.
Oh, he is absolutely a character. Yeah, 100%, definitely. I love I do want to talk a little bit more about Soul, because there are other elements about the film that I love. The soundtrack, I know that's been nominated for score as well. Incredible score. You've got the jazz music as well, but you've also got the very ethereal, haunting. I don't even know how to describe the music really. It's this almost like ambience.
Abstract.
It kind of goes, yeah, it's very abstract. And speaking of abstract, even the animation itself, it does play with a lot of different animation styles in the film. You've got the more sort of conventional, more humanistic animation in terms of like Jamie Foxx's character. You've got the more cartoony style with the Soul characters, but then when you get to the afterlife, it's very abstract and two-dimensional and almost geometrical in terms of its animation. So it does play with a lot of different styles, and I do appreciate that. Maybe Soul's one of those films that I need to go back and give it a second watch, but I feel like I kind of got everything I needed from it in one single watch, to be honest. I thought it was
if the ending was different, I would have watched it immediately straight away. If the ending was a darker ending, not even darker ending, because it's acceptance. He's gone through all of the stages of grief, which they do show off in this film, and was one of the ways of coping with kind of death, even if it is your own death. But
it's like a pass on what you've learned kind of thing. Everything that he's learned in life, he's given his life lessons to the next person to have them go and make a shot of life and see what they can do with it. I think that would have been a beautiful ending. I know when I think it was, I can't remember, I think it was me and George on the review for it. We had lots of comments saying that why it shouldn't have been a darker ending and why they appreciated the ending it has. So I can see arguments for both sides, but I've just got to go by what I think for this review. And I guess me and you
endings here at Cinema Savvy.
We really do, because we're miserable bastards on the channel. So we always like our cynical endings. Well, actually, you mentioned Eurovision a little bit back with Graham Norton. Yeah. There's a sequence in this next film we're going to talk about that is basically Eurovision. Tears up, Tayte.
Oh my God.
This is going to be fun.
Over the Moon is a film.
It is a film. And there it is.
It is Netflix's first... No, I Lost My Body was Netflix's first animated film, I want to say. This is Netflix's second animated film, I guess, then, if that's the case. I may have missed some. I didn't realize this film was a meme before I even knew it was a film. It's the scene where the rabbit's kind of looking around, just like darting eyes and stuff like that. Right, I'd seen that a few times on Reddit and stuff like that. I was always wondering, I wonder what that's from. Oh my God.
Where do we start? Where do you start with this?
To start off with, I wasn't expecting it to be a musical.
Yeah, agreed. I knew nothing about this film going into it.
Didn't even see the trailer, so same. I was going in completely blind. Yeah. It's a very weird film that mixes
That's an understatement. Yeah.
I'll just read out the plot just to start off with. In this animated musical, a girl builds a rocket ship and blasts off, hoping to meet a mythical moon goddess. So the lead character basically. Her mum dies at quite a young age, and her dad kind of gets over her after, like, I want to say
4 years.
4 years,
yeah. Which
is fair enough time and stuff like that. But the girl's upset that he's getting some. So, she decides to become a rocket scientist.
Oh yeah,
and dedicates her entire time into rocket science to find a mythical moon god or goddess and prove that the mythical moon goddess's prophecy is real. This being a person who's basically just studied for a very long time on how to build a rocket to go to space.
Yeah. Is that for me to come in now and try and pick up the pieces?
After keep going with that, because I'm still
hell.
It's like crossed wires at the moment.
Okay, I knew nothing about this film. I didn't even see a single frame of this. I didn't know what the animation style was. I didn't know what the plot was. I didn't know the story. Didn't know anything about this film. Completely went into it cold. So booted up Netflix and turned on the movie. Actually, someone did mention to me, Charlie, actually, who's been on a bunch of the Marvel videos that we've done, the director of this thing. So Glen Keane, and I'd never heard of his name. After you Wikipedia his name, you find out that this guy was inducted into Disney as a Disney legend in 2013. Oh, wow. He has been an animator, author, illustrator. He's worked on pretty much all of like the biggest Disney films: Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Pocahontas, Tarzan, and Tangled. I mean, that's a hell of a resume right there. And I want to say this is his directorial debut. I think he's directed shorts before.
He's an Oscar-winning animated director because he won for the Dear Basketball short.
Yeah, he's done shorts, but in terms of a feature, I think this is his directorial debut in terms of like an animated feature, I believe.
I believe so as well.
So when you watch this movie, you can see how what's the word I'm looking for? Manipulative this film is, in that it's so trying to be a Disney film.
It's trying so hard.
It's so trying. It's straining at how hard it's trying to be a Disney film. It's got all of the ingredients in there. It's ticking all the boxes. It's, happily married parents and either one or both of them dies. Tick. Cute animal sidekick. Tick.
Yeah.
Bursting into song about wanting more. Tick.
Annoying sidekick
characters, yes, who's basically the Olaf of this film. We'll get into him. By Christ, we'll get into him before the end of this review. Tick. So it's doing all of the things that you would expect from a Disney film.
God or goddess being the villain.
Yeah, and kind of wacky and sort of pop culture-y, I guess, like Maui from Moana.
The twist villain. Ooh.
Yeah, right. So where do I start? I don't even know what Tayte. I don't know where. Help me.
Okay,
I don't know where to start.
I'm coming back in.
Okay.
So the best way of describing this film is there is a sequence which is a table tennis match in the fifth dimension it's a singing table tennis match, so it's a musical number.
They rap.
And the winner basically wins the soul of the other person, if I got that right.
Tayte,
and that's in the opening 30 minutes.
This film was a fever dream. I have no idea. This film, and I mentioned this as well, this film is in a it's in a massive identity crisis. This film does not know what the fuck kind of film it wants to be. When it starts off, it feels very much, as I mentioned, like in the same vein as like a Disney film. It even frames itself that way with the music. I love the sort of the Chinese mythology stuff of the goddess in the moon pining away for her lost love.
Weird when the mooncakes start talking.
I'm going to get to the talking mooncakes, because that's where the movie took a nosedive, and I panicked and I didn't know what this film had become. This is the identity crisis I'm talking about. So at the beginning of the film, we get this sort of beautiful history about, this Chinese myth, and the animation in that part is gorgeous.
Fantastic.
It's like hand drawn. It's outstanding. And I'm going to bookend this as well at the very end of the film, where that whole aspect of the story gets a resolution and the main character finds the soul of her mother and they sing a song together. Beautiful. Now, if I examine the film in those respects, I can see what this film was trying to do. If it had like doubled down and been this really emotional and mythical animated film that was tonally consistent, and that's the biggest
imagine if you'd watched the start, you'd gone off and done a job or something, just left it on, and then came in the end and you're like, wow, this film looks really good.
Yeah. But even in terms of the actual film itself, it is wildly inconsistent, not just with its tone, but with its animation as well. Now, we talked about Soul, where you can have different animation styles in the same film. Of course you can. But it has to be consistent as a whole. And Over the Moon was not that. You had that scene at the end that I talked about with the soul of her mum, and it was beautiful. And then it would constantly pan over to fiber optic, colorful, really simplistically animated cartoon hedgehog and singing and dancing mooncakes. And I was like, that's from a very different film. It looked like Fall Guys. Yeah. Like, that's from a very different film. And this is in the vein of it trying to be this emotional Disney film, hitting all the beats of a Disney film. Okay, where this movie took a nosedive for me, I was already having problems with it, with the whole rocket thing, and I thought this is just a ridiculous concept as a whole. When they got to the moon and the colourful mooncake showed up, and then it becomes Eurovision, and the goddess is basically Beyonce, and it's like this modern
Europop song.
Yeah,
it's a weird Europop song, and it feels so out of place.
Like, it hasn't followed on from the tone of the rest of the film.
Here's the thing: she didn't even realize that the human characters had arrived yet. She was just like singing and dancing as if it was just a normal thing, and then she's like, "Oh, there are humans here." It's like, what? I thought you were doing that because the humans were there.
And then there's a green DJing rabbit that's on like
there's a green rabbit
mixing decks. Like, I was like,
and the green rabbit's in a love affair with her sidekick, cute animal sidekick rabbit.
Like, we give a shit. like
It's
like that aspect of the story.
This film is all over the place. Oh Jesus Christ! So the most annoying character in this film is easily the boy.
Is it? Oh no, I thought the Green Hedgehog by a country
Oh
mile.
no, I'm saying it's the boy.
He was annoying too. Yeah.
He thinks he's indestructible, so he runs headfirst into walls. That's as far as his character development goes.
Mhm.
He's also good at table tennis. That's it. But
Just
they
so we
play
can
out
have that musical number, and then that never comes back into it.
Those two things get played out all across the entire film, to the point where at the end of the film, he's actually able to break through a reality barrier, because that's in the film as well.
You've got giant frogs that are swimming through space.
You've got chickens. I remember there being chickens at some point.
Angry Birds. The Angry Birds show up.
Who
are biker Angry Birds. And this is what I mean. And I was speaking about this with Charlie, that take a film that's similar in concept to this, where you've got like a world beyond what we know. Soul, Coco, any kind of film like that. Book of Souls? What was the film that was like Coco that came out before? Book of Life. The world itself, you can get as colorful, as abstract, as weird and wonderful as you want, but it has to be tonally consistent with the film that you've set up. It can juxtapose the first act world, like the real world, absolutely, but there has to be a semblance of normality to it, I guess, that keeps it grounded. The moon segment, like, I've got no problem with it being bright and vivid and colorful. This is almost overexposed in terms of its colors. It's so bright and like visually dazzling, but it's the animation style just doesn't marry up. The world has no rules and no meaning. What relevance does ping pong and a Eurovision Song Contest song have to do with the moon, or frogs flying through space, or colorful hedgehogs? Like, nothing about it remotely makes sense. And I don't want to say that this is all in Chinese mythology, because I don't think that is in Chinese mythology, as far as I know. I could be wrong.
What makes it just that little bit odder is, in all of these kind of animated films set to this style, it's aimed at kids, it's aimed at that demographic, it's aimed at people who watch Disney films. It's just all aimed at that. They all have kind of, I want to say, character development, conclusion. There's something you can gain from the film. But because the character is, at the start of the film, so unwelcoming towards kind of the dad's new girlfriend and stuff like that, who seems like a lovely person, so kind of cold and unwelcoming, that she decides to go to the moons to try and find a solution. Like, it's so just... there's no kind of conclusion to the film, really. They have a family dinner at the end, and she's not a dick to the new mum.
Yeah,
that's it.
I actually do like the concept, because I mean, I've never been in that situation, but I know some people that have, where, you know, if there's a death in the family of a parent, and, you know, the parent finds someone else, or like a step parent or whatever it happens to be, there usually is that initial, you know, the hackles go up, like you're kind of forgetting the memory of whoever it happens to be.
She ages. I'm not gonna lie, she ages when she's building this rocket. You can see that.
Yeah,
it's not like she builds the rocket in one day. It's a long period of time that she's dedicating to almost revenge on her new mum. It's really weird. Like, I don't know whether people would go to the lengths of making a moon rocket to restart a mythological event on the moon.
It's very strange. It's a very strange idea of the film. And actually, when I was watching this film, because of the massive tonal whiplash and how it felt like a jumble of about 3 different films in one or more, I thought this was going to be that classic case of when you hit the credits, you're going to have like 10 people that have been writers on this film, or story by like committee. This had one writer, and it had story by one person, I believe. I'm just going to check story now, but I'm pretty confident it was one person.
Yeah,
it was
one writer,
at least. It was one
additional
writer and one director.
Yeah.
And that astounds me, because this feels like they had this concept for this really emotional film tying into Chinese mythology, with a clear theme and a clear progression for all these characters, and then someone came in and went with their Crayola crayons and just scribbled all over it and was like, bright lights and modern music and colorful animal sidekicks and mooncakes. But no, this all came from the mind of one person, which absolutely just boggles the mind.
Mental.
I think that at its core, if you rip all the colorfulness out of the movie and all the ridiculousness, there is a concept for a good film in here. And even though like it comes full circle, I guess, at the end and you have the resolution, all of the themes and the emotion and the intricacies of the film just get completely lost in this nonsensical world of randomness. And I think it's trying so hard to be a kids movie. It's just that, it's colorful and throw biker pigeons in there for some reason. I don't know what relevance they have, but they're there. You've got colorful red flying lions. You've got a green bunny that is a DJ.
And also a green dog.
And a green, yeah, you got a space dog in there.
Hedgehog, whatever it is. I don't even know what it is.
It's just nonsense. It's just nonsense.
Complete
and it's
nonsense.
A shame because you could see it was really trying to be like a Disney film. And even the music as well, I'll say, like, as much as I hate that Eurovision Song Contest song, I have listened to it about 4 times. It's catchy as hell, and I hate the fact that it is. But the music just doesn't really stay with you. It feels quite meandering. It feels like the songs lack a sense of structure or memorability.
Here's the thing. The good thing about Disney songs is, like, the I Want song is always brilliant. Mm-hmm. That's just a kind of statement of Disney films. And this film's I Want song is, I think, personally the best song.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of the other songs, you've got the introductory song, you've got kind of the set piecing song. The second song in a Disney film is never the best song in a Disney film. That's always the case. This second song's about mooncakes, and it's really weird. And it feels so just, we need to throw a song in here.
Yeah. I was like, oh, wow, we're getting a song about this, about making mooncakes? Like, it seems a little bit of like an act of desperation, really.
Like, even Disney songs, all of them have some form of purpose. It's introducing a new character, it's set piecing, it's world building. This doesn't really do any of those things.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, we need a song, mooncakes.
But I will say, for nothing else, this is, out of all the films so far, I mean, I can't vouch for Wolfwalkers, which is the last one that we're going to talk about. We saved the best for last, right?
Mm.
This is one that we've probably talked about the longest. So for nothing else, you can have a conversation. I found this film fascinating. It was like a fever dream. Not that I condone the use of drugs at all.
Imagine doing this on...
My God, could you imagine? It felt like I was high, and I don't even take stuff like that. Just watching the goddamn movie. So, Over the Moon. I mean, would you rank this on the same scale as B Movie?
No, because B Movie is so bad that it's good. This film doesn't quite meet that kind of... This film is completely different. This is... something completely else. I can't even think of an animated film that has this level of randomness thrown into it.
No.
But I'm sure it'll keep, because it's so random and because it's so fast, we've got to move on to the next thing. Fast, we've got to move to the next thing. Fast, we've got to move to the next thing. I think kids would be entertained by it.
Yeah, it just seems like it's been dumbed down to the lowest common denominator. Just get colourful animals in there, bright colours, music they can dance around to, and table tennis, apparently. It has made me interested to try mooncakes, though, because those shits look delicious. But I think we've said everything we can on Over the Moon. We could probably say more, but I don't want to. Can we move on to the actual one that we want to talk about?
Okay, so we've already done a review on this, but we're going to talk about it all the same. This film it's phenomenal. I don't even know how else to describe it. It's Wolfwalkers. It is just...
Look at that. Look at that.
God, look at it. Look how fantastic it looks. It's just unbelievably good. Like, this film was everything that I wanted from just an animated film. Like, I haven't seen Secret of the Kells yet. I have seen the other one, but I can't remember the name of it. I've seen Song of the Sea. But the animation studio, which is
Cartoon Saloon.
Cartoon Saloon. I always get it mixed up. Their kind of ethos is, we've got to make the animation style fit into the mythology. And that is very rare. That is very rare. Like, this is like watching stained glass. It's like watching cave paintings. The animation is rough around the edges. There are some moments where you see flickers across it. Even on the photo there, you can see there are blemishes, but that makes it so much more natural. It makes it so much more real. As far as the story's concerned, it's brilliant. It's something that just hits every single note perfectly. And I can now finally talk about the ending because Chris has finally seen it. And the final battle and how the dark places that it goes to, and also the amazing places that it goes to. But you haven't actually talked about this film yet.
No,
I have about it a lot on the review, so I'm going to just pass it over to you and just kind of hear what you had to say.
Yeah, I mean, we did this review. It was out of the London Film Festival, wasn't it? Was it a London Film Festival one? And I mean, it was one of those reviews. We have to do them sometimes where one of us have seen the film and then another one jumps on for moral support or to ask questions about it. I was the one asking the questions, but I was immediately struck by trailers for this thing and the animation style. And I guess I'm surprised at myself that I've left it this late to watch it. I watched this last night. I actually watched... oh god, which order did I watch? Over the Moon, Farmageddon, and Wolfwalkers. I watched all three yesterday. That was my entire Saturday, and I wanted to save Wolfwalkers till last because I knew that was going to be the best one of the three, hands down. And it's not just the best one of the three; it's the best one of the five, in my opinion, of the ones that have been nominated. Do I think it'll win? No, I think it is going to go.
There's a small chance.
It's been building up a following recently. You know, you talked about like the Annie Awards and everything. I do think Soul's still going to take it because I think that's just the more sort of like palatable one, I guess. This is from like the indie studios we mentioned, Cartoon Saloon. This is actually the third installment in what they've dubbed as their Irish mythology trilogy. Irish folklore trilogy. Yeah. I haven't seen Secret of the Kells. I haven't seen Song of the Sea. I'm aware of them. I remember the posters. I remember talk about those films. But now I've seen this, I'd love to go back and watch those too. This film, it deals with themes that I've seen in a lot of animated films. So in terms of its story as a concept, it's very similar to... It's usually like in industry versus nature, or, you know, two tribes, whether it's like the natives that belong to the forest and encroachers or invaders that come in. And there's always sort of like an envoy from both factions that form some kind of relationship or friendship, and then... you know, they settle their differences that way. So in terms of its story, it did feel very sort of been there, done that. That's not to say it's bad. It's a traditional story. The thing for me is, and why I think this should win, is we're talking about best animated feature. And I always think that the thing that should win that award is the thing that shows me animation that I've never seen before, or just elevates the genre as a whole. When Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse came out, before or since then, I have never seen a single film that looks the way that film does. And I was so glad when that film won. And I'm kind of the same with this one. Number one, it's beautiful to see hand-drawn animation again. It's like, you know, we talk about stop motion animation being like a dying art, and I still think it is. But there are at least, you know, Leica, Aardman, you know, Wes Anderson, that are still keeping that going. I defy anyone to tell me the same amount of 2D hand-drawn animated films that come out. It's barely any now, which is a shame. No. And thinking back to, you know, 20 years ago, into the 90s, into the early 2000s, that was the norm. You know, 2D hand-drawn animation was just the norm from every single studio. And then we had 3D come in. A lot of these films that we see, you know, Over the Moon, Soul, Onward, they all have great animation, but it kind of fits one uniform style. It doesn't really... I don't feel like I've been shown anything that I haven't seen before. All that animation kind of blends into one. Wolfwalkers is so unique. And this got me to tears. The ending of this film did move me to tears. I'd say the voice acting was outstanding as well. Especially Mabe, I think her name is. Loved her character. And the whole drama towards the end. Yeah, I'm going to pass back over to you because I think there's a lot we can talk about this film, and I feel like I'm rambling, but I just thought this was an absolute delight to watch.
So as far as mythos is concerned, this has the best mythos of all of the nominees into this. It really does lean heavily into that kind of Irish kind of sentimentality. You've got characters with quite kind of orange hair, you've got blonde hair, you've got the green and the blue eyes and stuff like that. But just the way they've animated it all, it just feels so unique. Every single character looks different. There isn't two characters you can point to in this film and go, that like you might get them mixed up or anything like that. They are so distinct and so unique, and the villain is so threatening. Mm-hmm. Like, it all works out so well together. And there's one moment in the middle of the film where they throw in a song, and when the song started, I thought, this is a film that's worked so well with just kind of the not modern, but like the kind of old-timey music and stuff like that. But the song's done by, is it Aurora?
Aurora, yeah. From Frozen 2 is where I know her from the most, yeah.
Yeah, from Frozen fame. And the song is fantastic. And it works so well with the film. I don't know if it was written for the film or not, but it's a perfect sequence that kind of breaks up the two halves of the film. And this film deals with various different types of kind of themes and stuff like that. Freedom, you've got kind of nature versus kind of industry and stuff like that. It's just so well done. I'm running out of words to describe it, because it's one of those things where you just have to tell people to go and watch it and go experience it and go experience the animation. There are parts of the film where it looks like it's 2D animated, but the backgrounds feel 3D. Some moments where they do overshots of the town, everything is 2D. Everything, the lay of the land, and it's so blocky and it just looks so fantastic. It's so unique in its own form. And yeah, the finale, the final part, not only does the villain have the choice between basically becoming a wolf himself or committing suicide, and he commits suicide. Dark endings. We love those dark endings. But you also get Sean Bean turning into a wolf, which was, yeah, I mean, me and Chris, when we were doing our review last, he took out his headphones whilst I was gushing over one moment. It was that moment. It was me going, oh my God, Sean Bean turns into a giant wolf. It's so fantastic. It's amazing and stuff like that. This film hits on every single level, and I can't wait to go back around and watch it again.
I'm actually in the process of, just because this film's just so beautiful, I need to bring
up more pictures. And stuff
so
like
I'm in the process of saving another one right now. So I'm going to try and multitask. I'm a guy, so bear with me. We don't do multitasking.
Yeah, I'm going to also try and save something and try and bring it in and see if that works at the same time.
I think just like, so I'm bringing up one now. Oh my God, this is you can just take every frame from this
literally
film.
any frame.
Look at this. Look at that.
It's beautiful.
Just outstanding. Look at the detail on it. And it's kind of done in one of those that it is detailed, but it feels very rough, as you mentioned. Like you can see that, you know, the rough edges and everything. But I love that. And again, it's that tangibility that I mentioned with Aardman, where you can see the thumbprints. You can tell that someone, you know, hand drew every single individual frame of this thing. And it's outstanding. And the story as well, as I mentioned, it is quite a tried and tested story, but and through the voice acting as well, I believed every moment. I love the friendship between the main two characters from each side. I did joke before we went live about Sean Bean's character. Number one, it's always great to see Sean Bean in something. And, you know, even though, well, I guess no, he is from England. They say, don't they, that him and his daughter have moved from England to Ireland, but he never changes that Sheffield accent, whether he's in Middle Earth, whether he's Sharp, whichever role he's in, whether he's a Bond villain, he's always going to have that Sheffield accent, and we love it. But it did feel like he had sort of like one sentence that he repeated constantly to his daughter. It was like, stay here, it's for your own good. And all the variations on that sentence. So I did become noticeable of that after a while. I thought that was funny, but it's just outstanding. It's one of the best animated films I think I've seen in a long time. And it's just, the animation stays with you, you know, and that style. And it's just, it's beautiful colors. And I love how the natural world are all these vibrant greens and autumnal colors and oranges. And then you have that offset with the very stone-like grays of the town.
The grays, the orange. And it's just so well. And they do mix, I'd say, two animated styles. You've got the soul of the wolf that comes in, that takes on a different form to the actual wolf itself. It's just such a fantastic film. I can only tell people, if you don't want to have the film spoiled for you, well, you probably had parts of it spoiled for us today, but just go onto IMDb and go onto the photo gallery for the film and just look at every single picture. It is so stunning. And if you have done that and you say, yeah, I really want to watch that, then absolutely go do it. It's on Apple Plus, I want to say.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was one of those films where if I was in the UK when it got its second release, I would have absolutely gone and seen it in the cinema, because I think they were showing it.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully this gets another cinema release, because I missed it when it was at the cinema. I was gutted that I didn't get to see this on the big screen. If it does get another, you know, hopefully if it wins, fingers crossed. I don't think it will, as I mentioned, but if it wins tonight, hopefully they'll put it back in the cinema and I'll get to see it on the big screen. I guess before we round off,
I was going to say,
want
do you want to rank them?
Let's do our individual ranking. So if we start with you, Tate, if you go from worst to best.
Oh, God.
Where would you
go? Worst, I would go Over the Moon. That's a given. And then, oh, God. I'd watch Onward again. I don't think I'd watch Shaun the Sheep movie, Farmageddon again. I do prefer Shaun the Sheep Farmageddon. It's an odd one. I'll go Shaun the Sheep fourth, Onward third, Soul second, and then Wolfwalkers number one as my picks.
Oh, God. Where would I go? I need to rank this on like two different integers because inherently Over the Moon should be bottom of the pile. But I'm not going to lie, I was entertained as fuck by that movie. Beginning to end, it was just bonkers. So there's more I can remember from Over the Moon, and granted I only watched it yesterday, but it was just mad. Then there's not much I can really remember about Onward. But if I'm just going by it actually from filmic standpoint, writing and everything all combined, Over the Moon would be at the bottom, Farmageddon would be fourth, Onward third, Soul second, and Wolfwalkers first, probably.
Which feels wrong, doesn't it?
It does feel wrong. But that's what I'm sticking to anyway. But you know what? I would go back and watch Over the Moon again at some point. It ain't going to be now. It ain't going to be for a while. But it's going to be one of those movies where I might skip to certain bits that I remember being random. But yeah, I guess that'll take us out then. We're coming up to an hour. Yeah. So that'll do it for us. So that was us ranking, reviewing, and discussing all 5 of this year's 93rd Academy Awards Best Animated Feature nominees. We will see which one of those wins tonight. I'm going to bring up times for that once again. So our live stream is going to be in the early hours of Monday morning. We're going to be going live at 12:50 a.m. British Standard Time. We will have times in an effective list on our Facebook and Twitter later on today. I need to get all the socials ready for those, actually. It's going to be good fun. So if you're staying up tonight, if you're in the UK or if you're in the US and you want some company, we're going to be talking about movies as we go through.
Yeah.
It's always good fun. And hopefully there might be some big shocks this year as well, because we will never forget that year with La La Land and Moonlight. It's all still to play for, and we don't know. We're actually intrigued about all the categories. We don't know what's going to win. It seems in a weird way there's bookies favourites for most categories, but it still almost feels quite wide open in some respects as well. It's going to be good fun tonight, and as I mentioned as well, please do get your Oscar predictions in. First and second choices for all of the categories for your chance to win a £15 voucher. All the details on that are in the description down below. And we want to hear from you guys as well. We've done a lot of talking for the last hour. Now I want to hand over to you guys. Let us know your thoughts on the best animated feature nominees this year. Which is your favorite? Rank them. Which ones didn't you like? Anything about the animated films this year, please do let us know. And once again, our social medias: Facebook at Cinema Savvy, Twitter at cinema_savvy, Letterboxd at letterboxd.com/cinemasavvy, and TeePublic link in the description down below, where you can pick up some very nice t-shirts, one of which I'll probably be wearing tonight. Yes. I tend to for the big event videos. This has been great, so thank you to everyone who's been watching, and we'll see you on the live stream tonight.